Disney has made a bunch of announcements about their movies at the D23 Expo 2017, and now that they own just about everything under the sun, from Marvel to Pixar to Lucasfilms to their own animation studios, there is a lot to go over. So, I figured, let's make a video about it when I can't really show anything they did except some pictures. I'm Logan, and this is the Game & Nerd Show. Just a heads up, you can probably tell by the length of this video, this is a little longer than usual, so go ahead and check the descriptions for time codes for all the info of things that you want to check out. We start on Friday with the Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios panel, hosted by Chief Creative Officer John Lasseter. Let's start with Disney Toon Studios, the makers of the oft-forgotten Plane series and pretty much all the direct-to-video films that you remember from your childhood. They showed footage which promised a new film that celebrates the next level of aviation. The footage is called The Speed Test and shows a jet flying quickly across the screen and another quickly following behind. They continue to fly until they reach space. Only then do the photorealistic jets open their eyes, and it reveals that this seems to be in the same Plane's universe. There's no title, but it will release April 12th, 2019. Next up, Disney Animation Studio with Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which is a short that will appear later this year in front of Pixar's Coco. Josh Gad came out and sang a new song from the short, and they quickly mentioned that Frozen 2 will have a full title, but they aren't quite ready to fully announce it yet. Now on to Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, or as I like to call it, a bad title. They showed a trailer which we will probably see a version of soon, but it showed the arcade owner hooking up a router to the internet. Ralph and Vanellope are exploring some kind of docking port, and she gets pulled in. Ralph follows her, and they wind up in a hub, sort of like the one in the first film. It turns out that Sugar Rush, Vanellope's game, is broken and in need of a replacement part. Then we're introduced to a new character named Yes, with 3 S's. Played by Taraji P. Henson, she's an algorithm that works for a site called Buzzaholic, which is an obvious play on BuzzFeed. They then showed another clip, this time with Ralph and Vanellope traveling with Yes in a car. She's an expert on the internet, and Ralph wants to know how he can go viral. Yes talks about fandoms and then takes them to the site ohmydisney.com, which is a real site owned by Disney and is the official Disney site about being a Disney fan. The site is shown filled with hundreds of familiar characters from everything Disney, including Star Wars and Marvel. There's even a booth where users, shown as little blockhead people, can transform into their favorite characters. We see a bunch of people becoming Marvel characters, including Stan Lee, who, of course, makes a cameo. Then every Disney princess ever, after Ariel, walks back in a massive crowd. Vanellope wants to go mess with the princesses, but they've entered a door guarded by actual stormtroopers. Vanellope then enters the room with her glitch powers. We then see 3D animation versions of all of the Disney princesses. Vanellope tries to convince them that she is also a princess, but they don't believe her at first. They start asking her questions to quiz her, and it's all really meta. Every single line in the scene is a joke. Then C-3PO enters as the princess's handler. It was then revealed that all of the princesses featured are being voiced by their original voice actresses. This seems like it's going to be a lot of fun for anybody in the fandom culture. Then it was Pixar's turn. They started with a video about Edna Mode, the fashion designer from The Incredibles, voiced by director Brad Bird. Brad Bird then entered and talked about Incredibles 2. Pixar's animation technology has advanced significantly since the original Incredibles premiered in 2004, and all of the characters are rendered to look similar but more realistic than their original incarnations. It seems from what they said that Elastigirl will be the main focus of the film, which takes place directly after the original. They then showed a clip that featured an action-packed showdown between baby Jack-Jack and a feral raccoon that revealed the full potential of the infant's budding powers. Moving on to Toy Story 4, there's only a little info about this as we have a couple years until the release of the film, but we saw a couple new characters and they hinted that the storyline will take place on a family road trip in an RV. They then announced a brand new Untitled project about 2 brothers in a modern suburban fantasy world. If you're confused, imagine a world without humans, but trolls and elves living in houses, driving cars. They even showed unicorns as rodent-like creatures digging through trash cans. And to close off the event, they talked about Pixar's upcoming release, Coco. The stars of the movie took the stage and sang a song written by Frozen's Kristen Anderson Lopez and Bobby Lopez titled Remember Me. Let's move on to Saturday's live action panel. Chairman of Walt Disney Studios Alan Horn set the stage for the panel and revealed the slate for the next 3 years. Some interesting things are on here. Dumbo's release date is finally given. There doesn't seem to be an Aladdin release date yet, but the thing I find most interesting is that the only original film on here is Coco. I know that we have more originals coming, but not having them on there on the slate is a little worrying. If you're wondering why I'm worried about this, you can watch this video right here about Baby Driver where I explain my thoughts a little more. Moving on! Ava DuVernay's A Wrinkle in Time. They brought out the cast of the film and showed the first trailer for the film. It looks good. Oh, and here is the poster. Then they talked about a movie that nobody really remembered was happening and nobody really wants. The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. It's like, why? Then we got a bit of news on Mary Poppins Returns coming out next year. The new film will continue this story in London 24 years after the original film. Michael Banks is a widower trying to raise his children, and Mr. Wilkins, played by Colin Firth, at the bank is giving them trouble. They need a little Mary Poppins magic in their lives. And although they just finished filming, director Rob Marshall had a teaser being accompanied by the Disney Orchestra performing live. They began with a piece of the original score and then transitioned into images from the film. Footage included a look at the home on Cherry Tree Lane, where laughter once dwelled, and a very stressed Banks family. But then Mary Poppins appears by a grand arrival on a kite. Admiral Boom is back, and there is a look at an animated and live-action combo sequence just like the original. Then there's confirmation that they are in pre-production for the live-action Mulan remake, and more announcements for this are coming soon. They're also working with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on a Jungle Cruise project. But the project with the most details is Aladdin, which is kind of weird because, like I said before, no release date. The new Agrabah is a vibrant cosmopolitan city inspired by various areas from the Middle East. Aladdin will be played by Mina Mased, Jasmine will be played by Naomi Scott, and the genie will be played by Will Smith, which is just bad casting. In my opinion, they should have cast James Monroe Eagleheart, the original genie on Broadway, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise. Then we got a brief look at Tim Burton's Dumbo, which has started filming in London randomly. Literally nobody knew that this was starting. Well, I guess the people filming it did, but nobody else knew. They also showed a 3.5-foot maquette of the Dumbo model they'll use to film. Dumbo will be in theaters March 29th, 2019. The film will include Colin Farrell, Eva Green, Michael Keaton, and the greatest actor of our time, Danny DeVito.
I want it. It's everything. I mean, look at us. We're just air conditioners. I mean, after all, we're just walking around on the planet, breathing, conditioning the air.
Then the showstopper. Well, one of the showstoppers. Jon Favreau brought the Circle of Life sequence from his upcoming Lion King live-action remake. People in the room were silent as it was happening, but as soon as the screen turned black, the whole hall stood up and erupted in applause and cheers. I was told by people in the room that it looks like Jungle Book, but better, and I don't even know how that is possible, but that's awesome. He also announced that the villain Scar will be played by a huge jacked man. Moving on to Disney's newest family member, Lucasfilm. They briefly mentioned the still untitled Han Solo film, but it was kind of clear they were avoiding the subject. And just like last D23, we got a behind-the-scenes feature for the film. Not a ton of new info, but there's still a few new sequences you can see in the video. And finally, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige took the stage and invited pretty much only half of the main cast for Infinity War, which consists of only like 15 people. It's a lot. Then Joe Russo came to stage to present a look back on the last 10 years with Marvel, and it transitioned into an Infinity War tease complete with intense footage, including Spider-Man in both his Homecoming and something else suits, Thor encountering the Guardians, Loki, Doctor Strange, and Thanos engaging the heroes in battle actually using the Infinity Gauntlet. Plus so much more. Unfortunately, there is about a 0% chance we'll ever see this trailer. Alright, that does it. The whole weekend. What do you think? What was the best announcement? What was the worst? Let us know in the comments. Wait, what was that? Oh god, Comic-Con's next week? Well, get ready for another one of these. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter at TheGameOfNerds and visit us at TheGameOfNerds.com for articles on all of your favorite franchises and fandoms. And make sure to subscribe here and click that bell to get a notification whenever we upload a new video. Stay tuned next week for our Comic-Con recap.